Hey, it's Greg Buchanan.
Hey, it's Kurt Price. Welcome to the Shaun Newman podcast.
Speck on your map, hey, what's wrong with that? We live where we are. There's not much around, it's barely a town, but a lot goes down at dark. It's Friday night, let's run off the rails, baby, heads or tails. We can get a buzz on right in the middle of a whole bunch of neon lights, or maybe take a back road down by the river, wind up wherever you like. Either way, girl, I'm okay, 'cause you're here by my side. So let's just let the wheels roll wherever they go. We're all right, we're heading for a good time.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Welcome to Hump Day, folks. Welcome to Wednesday. Today I got a good one here. A couple of local radio boys on the cast, having a couple of laughs. Keep it pretty light for you. So before I get to that, I just want to, I've been saying it every podcast here for about the last 2 weeks. If you want to get your business info on the podcast for free, look me up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Until this COVID-19 situation is over, let's just try and support everybody. And if you need to get a message out there, whether it's office hours, curbside pickup, you name it, just hit me up and we'll get you hooked up on the podcast, all right? So, first off, Colin Ringette with CR Sales and Marketing would like to tell everybody to be safe. And if you're a business owner that needs representation after the virus, contact Colin at 780-871-1417. Kenny Rutherford Appraisal Group, home of the podcast. Kenny's been awesome here to me. He's allowed me to set up shop in his office. So in these difficult times, if you're in need of any appraisal for bank loan to set a fair purchase price, whether you're buying or selling, and that can be any type of real estate, shops, homes, farms, cabins, restaurants, you name it, give Kenny the call. 306-307-1732. Another guy who's been instrumental in the podcast, Carly Clausen and his team over at Windsor Plywood, built the table that I'm missing dearly right now. They're still open for regular hours. If you can call ahead, they're trying to help with the physical distancing. They're able to set material out front for curbside pickup, also offering in-town deliveries for free during this tough time. Corey Dubik and Midwest Flooring telling you to shop local. They're open regular hours. Call, stop in, or shop online. Lori LeBurge, Abbey Road Flowers and Gifts. They're temporary closed to walk-ins. However, they are offering curbside pickup and free delivery within Lloydminster city limits. I'm happy to report that I gave her a call, and she delivered some flowers to my wife for Easter. And her current hours are 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., 780-875-2211. Grid Athletics and Wandering Wild. They both have deals going on where if you spend $100, you get $25 back in gift cards to a local business. So look them up on social media. All the details are there, but it is a great thing you guys can support. The boys over at Factory Sports, Taylor Holt, Nathan Mullett, they also want everybody to know to support local. It's been a bit of a tough time for everybody, so their front door ain't open, but if you give them a call, they're essentially just waiting around to get you what you need. They got tons of bikes available. You can hear the dogs in the background. Somebody's out for a walk. Maybe they're out for a bike ride. Check out Factory Sports on Instagram, Factory Sports Bikes. They got pictures up of all the bikes that they're selling. Or give them a call, 306-825-7678. Finally, Malcolm Radke, Lloydminster Regional Health Foundation. If you're wanting to help out, they're continuing to purchase a few things, and you can support by donating to the local COVID emergency fund through lrhf.ca/donate. One shout out for the past week, I got to give it out to Trevor Redden. He said, talking about Gord Thibodeau, who was, I guess, only a couple days ago, I shouldn't say a couple episodes, Monday. He said, he's a very articulate, intelligent man. It sounds like time away has really given him some perspective, too. He was a great listen. Trevor Redden obviously was, dropping things. Trevor Redden was also a guest on the podcast a few weeks ago. He is the voice of the PA Raiders. If you haven't listened to that episode in particular, Trevor was a fun talk. If you haven't listened to Mondays with Gord Thibodeau, I've been doing a little bit of a story arc. Somehow I had Lucas Bench and then Lyndon Springer on, and them two guys have been traded by Gord Thibodeau. And then, we talked about it then, and then Chris Wiebe, who was an assistant coach at the time, we talked about it again, and with Gord Thibodeau, we kind of finish off that. So if you were interested in that storyline, go back to Gord Thibodeau. We do talk a little bit of Bobcats in there in the Royal Bank Cup year. Now for today, it was a little bit of fun. I had obviously Greg Buchanan and Kurt Price in the kind of first roundtable via Zoom. So we had a little bit of fun. We talked, sports, a little bit of Lloyd, a few chuckles in the middle of it for sure. I think you guys are going to enjoy this one. So sit back, relax, and without further ado. Welcome to the Shaun Newman podcast for the second time, because I forgot to record the first time. I'm joined tonight by Kurt Price and Greg Buchanan, your fearless team that brought you the Tuesday night sports show from the Canadian Brew House, where they argued sports over countless pints, ribs, you name it. I got to see it firsthand several times. So thanks, boys, for joining me tonight.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Now, Bucky was like guest number 4 on here, guest number 5, like that, somewhere way back, and I hadn't got around to Price yet. So maybe you guys could just let the listeners know a little bit about yourself before we get going.
Pricey, you go.
Yeah, we'll start with you, Pricey.
Okay, sure. I moved to Lloyd in 1991, went to radio school in 2000, ended up at CKSA Radio, where I was there until recently when I was let go about 2 weeks ago. Over this COVID thing on a layoff. So I have been, like you guys, stuck inside for the most part. I've been doing a little bit of FaceTime at the new Lloydminser Nissan to just kind of pass some time and also fill in the community on what's happening. So that's where I'm at. And I know that's where a lot of people are at, just, a little bit scared about the future, a little bit worried about what's going to happen when this does end.
For myself, we don't know. Yeah, I don't know when it's going to end.
I was just going to say that's probably the hardest thing about right now is nobody can tell when it's going to end. There's no hey, in months' time, in 2 months' time, in 6 months' time, here's the date. We get past here and everything goes back to normal. It almost feels like nothing's ever going to go back to normal. But say a couple words there, Bucky, and we'll get going here.
Okay, but first of all, the background I have, since I've been doing these Zoom meetings, get creative, so you can get these virtual backgrounds. That's the right field bleachers at Wrigley Field. So I'm not going to get to Wrigley this summer, likely not. So this is as close as I'm going to get to Wrigley Field. I graduated high school in, as Kurt Price would probably know, in 1954. Went into broadcasting in 58 and have been on airwaves across Saskatchewan, Alberta since the 60s. I arrived in 89 and kind of left broadcasting, came back and involved in the CPCA, involved in a few different things here in town, and love the city, love the people. And this is tough, and it's tough for everybody. And people are sitting at home working, and there's people like Kurt that got laid off, and they're dealing with that right now. And there's a lot of people like that. And it's kind of, in a way, you've seen a lot of goodness of people too. Today I was at the Lloyd X. I'm a board member there. We had curbside assistance for people ordering Easter meals through the grill there. We served up 400 Easter meals today, took them out to the vehicles in the parking lot. So there's neat things like that that's happening. And there's a lot of good, bad that's happening right now because people are just, patiently waiting to see when the green light will come out and everybody will go back to normal, but we don't know when normal will ever be. So right now we're the thing is, you're learning what Zoom is right now.
Yeah, no kidding. It's Easter Sunday. How was everybody's Easter or Easter weekend?
Well, it's been pretty quiet. I'm pretty sure you guys, you've got kids, Shaun, so yours probably wasn't that quiet. It was probably almost normal around the house. till it came time to go out and have some supper, right? My sister-in-law made a fantastic ham, and so all I had to go do was go over and pick it up. It's sitting in the driveway waiting for me, and there it is to come back and enjoy. So it was really, really, really good. And then I sent a picture of her at the empty dish, and she said that was supposed to last you for 4 days. And I said, yeah, well, I skipped lunch because I knew the ham was coming. So
having the Easter egg hunt here and giving two of the three kids chocolate and candy before 9 a.m. this morning. Everyone can imagine what my day was like. A lot of screaming, yelling, but it's quiet now. It's quiet and it's beautiful. But we took a walk. You talk about picking food up off the front porch. We walked. My brother lives a block and a half from us, and we do this thing every second day where we walk over there. And they talk to us through the window. That's become the new norm. And the kids get it. They got young kids like us, and they sit there and talk. And yeah, when they're not sick again, we'll go in and visit. Like, it's just a very strange time to be alive. I'm actually kind of happy they're young enough where they don't fully understand what's going on. But Easter's
exactly.
been a little interesting.
Yeah, I know my niece was talking to my mom, like talking to her grandma the other day, and asked, "Do you guys have the virus there too, Grandma?" So they know what it is. They don't exactly understand what it is, but they understand you can't hug and kiss Grandma, and you can't see Grandma right now.
That's right.
Which is the most painful thing for all of us right now. Is everybody wants to get through this together, and we will get through this together. But you get through this together, yet separate, yet doing the things like we're doing right now.
That's right. How about you, Buck?
I think more than anything right now, I think when we get through all this, and again, we don't know when that's going to be, you're going to appreciate all those little things that you take for granted on a given day. And you take for granted just seeing people and talking to people. I'm a people person, and to be told to stay inside and try not to socialize and do your social distancing, that's difficult. And you learn to appreciate that now, of those little things, and because when it does get normal again, it's going to be very nice.
Well, and to put that into perspective, Bucky is someone who has ADHD anyway. So imagine trying to keep him in the house.
Yeah, if anybody knows me at work, I'm walking from department to department to department, and honestly, not really getting too much accomplished. Sorry to the bosses listening in, but I go from department to department and socialize, and now to be sitting in a house, and you know what? If COVID-19 doesn't get me, I think my wife will. So.
I was just thinking.
I can attest to that. Him going from department to department. There's many times, Shaun, where I would be working with my head down, trying to get things done, and door closed on the office to kind of, concentrate on stuff. And then the next thing you know, the door opens and Bucky comes in and he stands there. He doesn't really say anything. He just stands there and looks at you and makes something up like, "Oh, did you see that game last night?" and then leaves. And then about 20 seconds later, you'll smell the fart.
I was thinking, a guy I don't want to be locked up with is probably Mr. Buchanan. Although, if you two got locked up together, put TV crew in there with you, it'd make for some entertaining times right now.
No, I would wake up with a pillow on my face. I would be falling asleep, and then it would be 5 a.m, and I'd go, "Kurt, what are you doing?" And there'll be a pillow on top of my face.
That'd be good TV, though, too, Buck.
That'd take an awfully big pillow.
I think we would beat Tiger King for ratings.
Have you been watching Tiger King?
No, I haven't got into it yet.
Neither of you?
No. Sorry.
No, I can't. I just watching some of it and watching some of the comments on social media. I'm like, I don't think that's something I need to see.
Yeah, I look at it and just look into the pictures. I see a lot of that in chuck wagon racing. So I don't know if I want to really see that on Netflix. Sorry, guys.
So Tiger King, honestly, it is so bizarre. It makes you feel good about your life, no matter how bizarre your life can ever be. The guy is,
that's Joe Exotic.
Joe Exotic is married to 2 men, which isn't whatever.
Yeah.
He's polygamous,
yeah.
but owns over 200 and some tigers. who walks around with a gun on his hip, who ends up running for presidential candidate, who obviously doesn't win, who then runs up for governor. That's just the beginning of it. And it just goes on. I got 5 things on my hand, and I'm talking about like 5 minutes of the show. And it is the most bizarre show you'll ever watch in your life. There's no doubt in my mind that when we look back on COVID-19 10, 20 years from now, we're going to think of Joe Exotic and Tiger King, because it is just absolutely bizarre. You guys owe it to yourselves to go watch it.
So Tiger King makes you feel better about your lot in life when you watch it, correct?
Correct.
Well, Walmart does that for me too, so.
Yeah, fair point. Fair point.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to let's. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through a few topics, have a little bit of fun, have some laughs like we are. The first one is not a laughing situation, as we know this weekend, Colby Cave from North Battleford, an Edmonton Oiler, passed away abruptly at the age of 25. I just thought, if nothing else, for me, the condolences go out to everyone, his family and friends, is just everyone. Like that's heartbreaking. Anytime a young hockey player passes away, especially at the NHL level, you always hear about it. But for it to be an Oiler is special to this area, but for it to be North Battleford makes it even closer. And then for him to be just so young is something else. I thought we'd start there, guys. So I know, Bucky, we were kind of chatting about it before Price came on. Maybe we'd start with you.
Yeah, it's tough, and you and I talked about this before too. Is hockey can be a very small world, and it's amazing that he's from North Battleford, but yet he has connections to a lot of guys that played minor hockey with him. A few boys in Neilburg. Cody Smith played his minor hockey with him in North Battleford. Martin Smith's a good friend of mine from North Battleford. Spent a lot of time with Kobe. Kobe also had some connections at a very young age in chuck wagon racing. It was barn help. So it's tough. He's 25 years of age. I know Monday, the Oilers reached out to him on Monday to say that, there's a conference call coming up on Friday. Kobe, we want you to be part of it, because come Friday, we'll give you details of exactly what the plan is going forward, because when we do go forward as a team, you'll be playing for the Oilers and not going to Bakersfield, which is great news for Colby. Gets that news on Monday, and then Tuesday he gets arrested at Sunnybrook and has bleeding in the brain, and he dies. And it's devastating. He's 25 years of age, probably getting now his legitimate shot at an everyday job in the NHL, and this happened. So it's shocking, and it's it puts life in perspective when we're going through all this. That here's a guy that had the career ahead of him, and nobody knows what happened, but he's no longer with us now.
Yeah, I think, for me, the biggest thing about Colby Cave was not what he did on the ice, but when you start doing a little research on Colby Cave and, how he was brought up near North Battleford on a cattle ranch, and how he worked his way to be the hockey player that he was and go undrafted, and then finally make the Boston Bruins, right, to get his crack at that. But the things that he did off the ice sound more like someone that was not 25 years old, but a lot older than that. I mean, there's things that you read about where he's reaching out to people that were in need. He's reaching out to young kids. Who did he get in the fight with in Bakersfield that he knocked out? And then he texted him the next day, right, to say, hey, it's the caveman here from last night, and I just want you to know you were in my respect, and I'm hoping you're okay, and things like that. So this is a guy that was a good hockey player, but from what I could tell, a real leader off the ice as well. And when something like this happens, you think to yourself, boy, that guy's career was endless. That sounds like a guy who could not only be a hockey player, but could go on to be a hockey coach and to lead young men and to teach them exactly what he's gone through and how to reach something when it's not handed to you, and how to hold yourself and conduct yourself off the ice. And it sounds like that's just from his upbringing.
Yeah, absolutely, boys. It's just once again, thoughts go out to the family and friends of them. I always just say I'm just a fan, right? Like I just got to watch him from afar, and him being from North Battleford definitely ties it a little closer to Lloyd. Like North Battleford is not that far, and like Bucky says, a couple of guys that I even know, I didn't realize the Smiths are that close, but like That's how close that was. And just that's tough. And, nobody has the words. If the NHL playoffs and the Edmonton Oilers had gone ahead, can you believe we'd be in the first round right now? I know time just seems to kind of lose any sense of the day, because I was, on Thursday, I'm talking to a couple guys at work, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's a long weekend. And you're like, what? Like, I don't even know what a long weekend is anymore. I haven't left the house in how many weeks, right?
Yeah.
But it would have been going first round right now, and we would have had some dandy matchups. Of course, the big one we always like to point to is the Battle of Alberta, which hasn't happened since 1991, since Mr. Price moved here, since I was 5 years old. Like, I mean, how fun would that have been to start with?
Well, especially if you look back to the brawl, right? And how that all went down. It would have been interesting to see how the Oilers would have responded, how the Flames would have responded, if we would have got that every night of potentially a 7-game series. Or would the Flames, being the Flame team that we kind of saw a few times that looked below average, and the Oilers, outside of their power play, their power play was dynamite. When they were 5-on-5, they were average too. So it'd be kind of interesting how that series would unfold, and I think it would have been a pretty good one.
Yeah, I think that series maybe would have come down to goaltending, and I like the Oilers' goaltending more than I like Calgary's goaltending. And of course, I think the offense for the Oilers would take over, because I really like what they did at the trade deadline as well. Don't forget they lost Mike Green, and Mike Green would be back for the playoffs by the sounds of thing as well. So I think it all comes down to goaltending, and I think that would be the series that we would want it to be. I think it would be physical, and the first round's always the best anyway, but I think it would be a really physical series. But I love that you've got up-and-coming guys, too, that like Matthew Tkachuk, that are going to throw his weight around. Mangiapane's coming on, right? He was scoring like crazy at the end there for Calgary, and then you've got the powerhouses in McDavid and Draisaitl on the other side. But you've also got Neal, and you've got tougher players on the front end for the Oilers as well, like Kara, who would need to get involved, and I think probably might even be his coming out party in a series like that. But I really think that would be the series you'd want it to be. Like, I think everybody would be disappointed if they just said, no, we got to play hockey. No, I think there would be times in that series that it would get ugly.
Yeah, well, I harp on here all the time. I think it was what Alberta needed. Right? Alberta's in, COVID ain't helping, but oil ain't helping. We haven't been getting a lot of love for probably, the last 5 years at least. And every Oiler Flames fan has been begging for a Battle of Alberta. Just give us one. Just let's see what happens. There would have been probably fist fights in the streets over, just taunting each other. I mean, I got buddies of mine who text me all the time. I got bets with one of the drivers at work. Shout out to Dave Davis, Groundworks. On every game they play each other, we throw a 20 spot on it to see who's going to win, right? I was going, we're taking the playoffs. We'll put whatever dollar amount you want on that. That's what that rivalry, it's deep. And maybe, you guys would have been in your younger years when the last one was going on. What was the old Battle of Alberta like?
Oh, the old Timmy Hunter days, and Dave Brown, and and Slats on the bench. Now, that was when hockey was hockey. That was fun to watch, because it was war. You look back at some of those videos on YouTube now, and you see the line brawls. And when's the last time you've seen a line brawl outside of the Oilers Flames this year that you don't see that? Well, during the Flames and Oilers rivalry back in the day, you saw quite a bit. And even warm-ups were interesting back in the day, because guys were standing right at center ice and chirping each other, a little bit of stick here, a little stick there. That was fun. It's kind of funny what you watch in these rewind games that TSN and Sportsnet do, and guys skating around with no helmets and no shoulder pads, and the goalies look like they're wearing a Sears catalog for goalie pads. It's fun to watch, because it's so different. The game is so different than it was even when Gretz was playing and Messier, when they had those glory days. to where it is now. It's such a bigger, faster game now, but there's less ice. You know, you have no open ice anymore. You don't have that freewheeling like you used to, and you don't see it get down and dirty like it used to too.
Shaun, I used to tape it. I used to tape it on VHS. I taped the playoff games, and whenever they played, just so I could go back in between periods even and rewind and watch the fights again, just to see what exactly happened, because you needed to see exactly what happened and what they're saying on the bench. Let's read his lips, you know, and things like that. It was every bit as fun as you think it was, and it was a war, and it was awesome. And guys were a lot tougher than you thought they were. Like, I think of a guy like Joe Newendike who'd take a beating in front of the net, you know, and you'd say, how does that guy get back up? You know, and he get back up and score. It wasn't, and then of course in '86, you know, when I don't know, was McDonald awarded that goal, Buck? I can't remember.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
and never once believing that Calgary could actually beat the Oilers. Never once believed that they could actually beat Edmonton. And then I remember I went for a glass of water in the kitchen. I remember my dad yelling, "Laddie McDonald just scored!" I'm like, how did he just score? The Oilers had the puck.
Yeah, from behind the net.
Yeah.
Old Steve Smith. And the other one that I remember is Fleury scoring in overtime and sliding across center ice at Edmonton. Oh, he hated at Edmonton. It probably still is today.
And Gretzky's slap shot on Vernon too.
Oh yeah.
Just inside the blue line. Yeah, just a rifle of a shot, and the perfect angle on it, because remember, we didn't have as many cameras and things like that back in the day. But man, those and I watched Quebec and Montreal in the Easter Massacre. Just went on YouTube and watched that just to see, and it kind of reminded me, like, I started to think to myself, what was worse, the Calgary Edmonton games or this one? Because although there was a lot of fights in the Montreal Quebec game, you just felt like there was more hatred. And I know people say there was pure hatred in that series with Montreal and Quebec too, but it just seemed like guys were swinging, you know, with everything they had, with every single punch in the Calgary Edmonton days.
What is the best now that Sportsnet, TSN, everybody's been bringing out the relics, the old school, going way back in the time machine. What's been the one that's caught your guys' eye? Have you been watching any of that? And if so, what has it been? And it doesn't have to be hockey. I know they were just replaying Masters this weekend.
Well, I've been watching the Blue Jays watch the 92 and 93 World Series games.
How awesome was that?
It just takes you back. Like, it just, like, I know, Shaun, you're just a kid, but for me, I remember watching those games and not even being that big a baseball fan, not ever believing that the Blue Jays could actually do what they've done, but not only watching these games, but then going back and watching interviews with these players and remembering Pat Borders and remembering all these guys, like, they'd step up to the plate. And then you go, they didn't even play John Olerud in this game. How did they not play John Olerud? You know, like, why would you keep John? Oh, okay, well, you know, what's the name? Morris just hit 2 home runs. Okay, that's why.
I tell you what, if they replayed the complete run of the Blue Jays winning either of those years, I was way too young to remember watching. I probably watched a bunch of it as a kid, but I don't remember verbatim how it goes, other than a couple of hits, right? So if they replayed them, which they were, you know, they're in the middle of replaying Phillies the other night. And I caught myself watching it. The kids were trying to play. I'm like, no, I'm trying to watch a game. I want to see what happens here. Even though I know what's going to happen, I actually don't remember those games. So it's still pretty friggin' intense. It's still pretty cool. And there's something to be said about going back to, you know, a young Kurt Schilling on the mound throwing down against the Blue Jays of a young Roberto Alomar and that group of guys. Like, total nostalgia for you guys, but for me, a young guy, knowing what happened, but now getting to experience it instead of in a short 30-second clip. Now I get to experience the 2-hour game without, you know, they cut out some things, but for the most part, it's unreal.
Yeah, like you remember, like for me, watching some of those old Blue Jays World Series, and you remember where you were when you're watching it. And I know one Blue Jays World Series, I forget what year it was, but I was covering if you remember, the Canadian Cowboys Association Finals, the CCA Finals were at the rodeo, was at the Civic Center. It was like a 4 or 5 day event. And they used to have the old press box at the Civic Center that kind of hung from the rafters. And I had my little black and white TV plugged in and watching it. And Kurt Marcel, as you know, sitting there watching it with me and a few other Cowboys sitting there with a couple of shots of whiskey, watching the Blue Jays and watching rodeo at the same time. So it's some pretty good memories.
I remember going to the rodeo dance after they won the 92 World Series.
Yeah.
I bet that was a fun night.
That was, yeah. I would have been like, I don't even, 18, 19 years old, I guess. Yeah.
Geez, shut up already.
Price out on the town looking to bust a move.
I remember seeing Greg Buchanan there actually and going, like, just being starstruck, eh? Just like, well, there's the man. There's the myth. There's the legend. You know, someday I'm going to work beside him and make real good jokes about him and his potato head.
I swear, I get isolated, Pricey. I'm coming after you.
Do you think the NHL playoffs will go? Do you think there's any way in which they can come back? And before you hop to an answer, it's sounding like, you know, and you listen to Alberta, for instance, like they're talking peak cases middle of May, and it can get pushed out later than that. And even then, after you have peak cases, are people going to want to go to a building to watch a hockey game? Because, I mean, it's not like it hits summer and this thing goes away by the sounds of it. I'm no medical expert by any stretch of the imagination. Is there any possible way that the playoffs come back? And if so, maybe how would that look?
Well, I think the toughest thing is having an off season, because I don't think they're going to come back before July 1st at the earliest. So let's say they did come back July 1st. That is the same amount of time as last year's off season. That's roughly 110 to 115 days, which was what the off season was last year when you look at when the playoffs ended. However, having said that, I hope we do get some form of playoffs in, but I don't think it will look like you think it will look, where they have 7-game series. And I know that Bucky and I have talked about North Dakota. There's been some talks about Grand Forks and an arena where they have 2 rinks and how you can have games just keep going on and on and on. But my brother said something the other day that I really, really thought, man, that would be fun, is an NHL World Junior type tournament where you have 2 divisions, almost like you have right now with the East and the West. And you have them play off and advance to the next round. And this team is knocked out, and then you have crossovers and things like that. And maybe to a certain extent where you get to the Final Four, and that's where you have these 7-game series come into play.
Yeah, the thing that's going to play a factor, and I hate to say it, but it's going to come down to money too. Because when we get through all this, the owners are going to want to make some kind of cash off this. And how they make that cash is come playoffs and get, you know, sold out arenas and get a 7-game series, get 4 home games or 3 home games through a series. That's not going to happen now. So they're going to have to find a way to make money for the teams, make money for the NHL. And going to an isolated arena and having games in North Dakota and nobody watching it but televising it, they're going to probably have pay-per-view to watch it, and I think people will pay it. I just don't know how that's all going to – I think the NHL is going to do everything they can to play somewhat of a regular season and then playoffs, because they got to give away – and the thing is, so when you give away the Stanley Cup in late September, when do you start the next season? You know what? Yeah, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. See you at training camp. You know, like, do you do that short of an off season? Because it sounds like the NHL does not want to take anything away from next season.
Well, I think they got to keep. I think they got to keep the TV deals going, Buck, because I've heard people say, "Well, I would pay to watch the playoffs," and I think that, you know, you already are, right. You already have these TV deals in place, and that's where the league is probably going to end up making their money right now is to have these playoff series with advertisers basically buying spots along the glass and in commercials and that kind of thing. That's the only thing that I can go back to and think of that would prevent them from doing PVRs, that these TV deals are already in place.
The World Junior thing is interesting. That's a new one. I've never heard that before. I agree with you, Bucky. The only way NHL can make money off it at this point, with not having any fans there, it's going to have to be pay-per-view. But I don't know about any other hockey fan out there, but I would gladly pay some money to have some live sports on the television.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think everybody is wanting something right now. You know what? And the NHL's in this, everybody else is in the same ballpark as the NHL. You got Major League Baseball that is thinking about doing that in Arizona, isolated area, and having all the teams playing in those isolated areas in Arizona. NFL is one of the rare ones that says it's not really going to impact them, and we'll have to wait and see for that. The CFL is another one that Regina's supposed to host the Grey Cup. And now what they're talking about is the Grey Cup will still stay in Regina, but it could be 2 to 3 weeks later. So all of a sudden you're going from playing middle of November in Regina to late November, early December in Regina outdoors.
Get your flask ready.
You're gonna have to warm up that pill because you're gonna need something warm to drink.
Yeah, you're gonna have to have it in a koozie of sorts to try and keep it warm enough so it doesn't turn to instant slush.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw where they said Quebec has banned sporting events until the end of August at the earliest. Yeah. So that leaves the Montreal Alouettes playing, if they even can, every game on the road, in July at the earliest. So
what is? I saw a video today of a baseball league over in, I assumed it was South Korea, but I don't know that for sure, so don't quote me on that. And they were having a baseball game, no fans in the stadium, that kind of thing. What is the first sport to come back in North America?
Baseball. I think baseball.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think baseball. I think a close second could be NBA. As much as the NBA is saying that they're going to cancel everything, I think baseball and NBA might do the similar thing where they'll find an isolated area, have all the teams play there in front of nobody. And I think that's what Major League Baseball and probably the NBA will do.
Can you imagine an NBA March Madness? One game, winner move on?
That would be awesome. Even I'd watch other teams other than the Raptors. Right now, I couldn't see myself watching anything but Raptors. But, if it's one game, take all. And I definitely watch the last 10 minutes.
How about best rivalry that you've seen come through Lloydminster for a little local sports? I know we were talking about the Battle of Alberta and how intense that's been, and the older generation always talks about it. My generation desperately wants it. How about from Lloyd perspective? You guys have been here a long time, been around the sports scene a long time. What has been the best rivalry you've seen come through this city?
Well, I haven't been here as long as Buck, obviously, but I think the one that I really think about when I think about rivalries in Lloydminster is the two high school football teams and how that's evolved over the last few years, and how they used to be, were they 6-man or 9-man in the Raiders?
Holy used to be 6-man.
6-man. They used to play 6-man, and then when they moved to the new building in 2001, I think it was. Yeah. And they have that beautiful field now, and then Armstrong Field's even nicer than it ever was before. They've got lights there, and you've got the new Synergy Vault. I think it's called the Vault, but
yeah.
And it's just evolved. So football's come so far in Lloydminster, and have those guys that know each other and want that respect to the other team and want bragging rights. Though for me, it's the high school football that I think of when I think of rivalries in Lloydminster.
And then that even changed a little bit too, because when they established the midget program for football, it brought all those players from both schools together to play on one team. They didn't have that before. And when they didn't have that before, they really hated each other. Like, there was, on the football field, there was a general hate between the Holy Rosary and Lloyd Comp. And now you actually play together a few months down the road after you finish up your football season with your high school team. So now there's friendship. So there's not much that hate anymore. And I think for me, rivalries here in Lloyd, I ran the Border Kings for a few years, so like Administiquin comes to mind. Stony Plain Eagles always come to mind because we always had very good games at Stony Plain. And kind of a funny story, we really didn't like each other a whole lot, and one of my good friends that developed out of that rivalry was Craig Goebel out of Stony Plain, and it was kind of funny meeting him away from the rink and becoming a bit of a friendship with him. And I think the other town in this that we don't like too much between me and Pricey, and you know what, we can say it here because they don't really have internet there, and they don't have running plumbing, and they don't have electricity there, and they all look like Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. That's anybody from Rosetown. So when the Red Wings thought they could have a senior team and compete for an Allen Cup, Rosetown came to mind, and they came to town, and they thought they were all that and then some. And so me and Pricey really do not like people from Rosetown.
You know, it's funny you say that because I remember the night when you looked at me and we were on the Tuesday night sports show and you said, what's the one town that, you know, you'd never cheer for no matter what? And I was thinking that you were thinking big league, and all of a sudden out of my mouth came the Rosetown Red Wings. And you just, and Bucky almost spit out I don't know, I think he was eating cake at the time or something like that. And he's like, I was thinking the same thing. So, yeah. But, Buck, didn't the Bandits have a rivalry with Saddle Lake at one time that was pretty good, too?
Yeah, back in the day, they had a few good ones. I can remember, this dates me, too. The Bandits beat Saddle Lake in Saddle Lake. I'm working TV, doing post-game reaction with the players and the coaching staff on the ice in Saddle Lake, and just won the championship. They get the trophy. They're skating around the rink in Saddle Lake, and chairs start flying over our heads as we're on air. My camera guy kind of taps me on the shoulder. I go, geez, what was that? Go, that was a chair that missed you by about 5 inches. Let's go in the hallway.
I think wasn't there some tires that got slashed and stuff
They used to have when you went to Saddle Lake to play there, and I don't think they had a team last year, and I don't think they're going to have a team down the road, but they used to have a compound for the visiting team's bus, and you would pull in there and put it into the compound, because before that compound, you would come out, and usually you would have to phone Fountain Tire in St. Paul because we got 2 or 3 flat tires.
Didn't they pay the ambulance to circle the building a couple of times too?
No, that was a movie there, Pricey. Maurice, you make me sick.
How about some local boys? Bryce Kindup and Brinson Pashnik both signing entry-level deals to the NHL. Bryce with Anaheim, Brinson with the San Jose Sharks. There's been a lot of talented hockey players that are on the cusp of recent. I know, right now, superstars like Braden Holtby, past guys of, the Clark MacArthur, the Wade Redden, the Scott Hartnell, those guys, always in the conversation. But now you got, the Ty Smith, the Cale Clegg. Now you got Bryce Kindup signing. Brinson Pashnik, not from Lloyd. I know he's from Bonnyville, but he did play some minor hockey in Lloyd. And there's other guys out there that have been really starting to make a name for themselves. I know Zane Franklin, a boy from around here, really had a season in the WHL. Chase Waters, playing over in Saskatoon, had a season for himself. I'm sure you guys have a couple more names you're thinking of.
Yeah,
but
yeah, like Zane Franklin's another kid that comes to mind for me. Had a sensational career in the WHL. Cut short his 20-year-old year this year.
That's right.
But, it's just a kid that was a dynamite bantam hockey player, developed into a great midget player, and developed into a great WHL player. I think more than anything, that elite program that got established here in Lloyd minor hockey a number of years ago has produced these players. And on top of that, there's programs for hockey development. Kyle Tapp is part of one of them that has really done yeoman's work to get these kids to that next level. Because you know what, if you want to get to that next level, it is 12-month a year kind of job, and it becomes a job for you at a very young age for all of these kids to make it a WHL and to go to that next step. So hats off to a lot of those kids that take that time and the effort to get into those programs. And you know what, when you're 16, 17 years old, you probably don't want to be in a gym. You don't want to be on the ice. You don't want to be there day after day. and the commitment you have to do that is amazing. And so hats off to all those kids that are in the WHL, now going NCAA and going beyond that. So, another kid that comes to mind is Mason Shaw. It's a kid in the Minnesota farm system that he's going to be a sensational player down the road too.
Yeah, it's not just something in the water. I think exactly what Buck is talking about is right. I read an article the other day about what happened to Montreal hockey players. There used to be tremendous hockey players coming to Montreal, and now you're looking at the first round pick this year will probably be at Montreal, but there hasn't been anything major centered around that area in quite a while. So what's going on with junior hockey in the Montreal area? And I think that when you go back to this area, it is exactly the opposite. And it is not just something in the water. It is leadership, and it is coaching, and the right people being in the right place.
Switching to a different topic, UFC Fight Island.
Oh, really?
Did you guys also watch WWE?
Well, yeah, they did WrestleMania with no fans.
Okay, I have to say something about WWE right now. I didn't watch a WrestleMania, but I watched some of the other stuff that's on WWE now. It is so weird seeing these guys come into their entrance and there's no crowd at all, and they're still delivering their little spiel and talking like they usually talk as a wrestler, and they're standing in the ring doing that, and there's no sound at all. It looks weird.
Yeah, I think UFC would be even weirder. I really think that would be. Yeah, I do. I think it would be. And I'm not a big UFC guy. Like I watched St. Pierre when he was at his peak and when he came back for the final fight, and that was more of I just happened to be, in a bar watching it at that time. I never seek out UFC, but just from watching highlights and everything like that, I think it would be incredibly weird. I think baseball in empty stadiums would be more natural than watching UFC with no crowd. And I say that because I've watched Baltimore and Toronto play in Baltimore and saw the orange seats behind everybody. And you think that times when you watch baseball, is there anybody even there? No. But you still watch it.
Yeah, it's like a Florida Panthers home game. But UFC, to me, this is my 2 cents in UFC. I enjoy watching it. But way back in the day, it was a big thing that you would go to a bar or rent it at home and watch UFC because it was not every weekend. It was once a month, maybe once every 2 months. Now to the point where UFC is coming out with so many cards that they're flooding the market, so much so that you lose track of what UFC number it is. And Dana White, even when this first came out back in March, Dana White was saying, this is not going to impact us. We're going to keep on business as usual. Like, he just thinks he's so much above everything that he's going to push and push and push and have his fights still go. And it's not going to happen, Dana.
You don't think there's a way? Well, actually, first, I think UFC could get away with no fans. I think compared to the WWE, when you watch it, if it ain't for the fans, it ain't entertaining, right? Like, I mean, their interaction with the fans pretty much the entire time, right? Like, that's the whole thing. So when they got nobody there to yell and scream and chant and throw the guy into the stands and whatever else, you can't do that. It's like, this is completely weird. At least with UFC, they're going to have a commentator. They're going to focus on the fight. And at the end, it's going to be weird because it's only going to be cheering, right? Even so much as baseball. Can you imagine a little buck out there just serenading you in an afternoon game? Well, I could still fall asleep to that on the couch, wake up for the 9th inning. That sounds pretty nice to me. But this UFC going to a fight island, which I can't seem to find where that is, but to have an island where they're going to have some fights, essentially bring fighters over there, test them, make sure they don't have it, let them train there, and then televise it. I almost think it could work.
So UFC,
it was Bloodsport. It was Bloodsport. It was already
a
movie.
Yeah. It was already a movie.
They're stealing from Bloodsport.
Only there was a fan, right? Yeah.
But see, Fight Island, that sounds like a Fox reality show.
It sounds like a movie.
Yeah. But what's that old saying? What has 20 legs and 5 teeth? The first 2 rolls at a WWE fight card.
Hey, I object to that. I had tickets for April 26th in Edmonton, and I was going to be in that second row, so I object to that.
How disappointed are you, Pricey?
Well, my nephew really wanted to go, so I'm pretty disappointed I didn't get to take him because he was so excited. He's such a big WWE fan, and I can't blame him because I look back on when I was his age, and what was I watching? I was watching Stampede Wrestling.
Oh, yes.
I was watching WWE, and I was eating every minute of it up. So I was really looking forward to taking him. And to tell you the truth, I couldn't even name a wrestler today. I really couldn't, but it was going to be the look on his face when he's getting these guys, they're sweating and it's landing on him.
Okay, Pricey, what was your favorite Stampede wrestler?
Oh, Davey Boy Smith, I think.
Oh, no.
Used
Really?
to love Davey Boy Smith and of course the Heart.
No.
But the British Bulldog, he was the British Bulldog.
No, your favorite's got to be the Cuban Assassin.
I still to this day can't understand why they let him wear pants with side pockets that obviously had wrenches in them into the ring. But I guess you can't search these guys. It would be against their principles. So I miss those. I watch those on Twitter all the time.
Stampede Wrestling.
Yeah.
See, Shaun's looking at us like, what is Stampede Wrestling?
I'm looking at you like you guys are dating yourselves because although I will put my hand up. Back on the farm, we had 2 channels. On Sunday afternoon when Mom was taking a nap, Dad was at the helm of the TV, and it was either wrestling or I can't remember what was on the other channel, obviously, because we always watch wrestling. But I grew up in the age of The Rock when he was in his heyday, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Mankind, Triple H, The Undertaker. I mean, The Undertaker's still going. Who are we kidding? There's a guy you'd know from now. Undertaker is immortal.
The Attitude Era was an awesome era, but it can't compete with Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, George the Animal Steel, Brutus Beefcake, Greg the Hammer Valentine,
the Macho Man.
Oh, Brutus Beefcake. It was the golden age of wrestling. But when it first came on, when WWE first came on, I don't know about you, Buck, we were like, hey, what's this crap?
Yeah.
Where's Stampede Wrestling? Where's Ed Whalen?
See, I grew up in Regina, and Stampede Wrestling was every Saturday afternoon, and I played a lot of minor hockey, and we played at all these little towns all over Saskatchewan, and you honestly got your schedule for the weekend, and you had to see, okay, what time is Stampede Wrestling on? Hope we're not playing then, because we're not playing. Everybody's in one hotel room, and we're all sitting there watching Stampede Wrestling. We used to go to the auditorium in Regina, the exhibition grounds there, watch it every Wednesday night, and we would stop at 7-Eleven on the way home, and a van pulls up with all the wrestlers. All the good guys and the bad guys all pour out of the van. Of course, they're in the ring telling everybody it's champagne and limousines and everything with all the girls in Regina. No, it's a van, and you're stopping at 7-Eleven.
Yeah, when Rocky 3 came out and Hulk Hogan was in it, we were like, who's this guy? Because we were watching Stampede Wrestling.
Well, let's go to something. We could probably be on. We might as well just name the episode "Stampede Wrestling." We could have probably talked about it for 2 hours. Brought up old matches.
One of my good friends, Pete Lubardius, who comes on the Tuesday Night Sports Show, and Price, he can attest to this. Pete's a huge Stampede Wrestling fan, monster, and he can do every Stampede wrestler. He does a great Stu Hart, does a great John Foley. Oh yeah, he does great imitations.
Have they been replaying those at all?
No.
Well, the Stomper has them on. If you follow the Stomper on Twitter, he'll tweet out some old video of Stampede Wrestling and stuff like that. And the best ones are the ones that involve Ed Whalen and Ed Whalen getting mad, Buck. Because they'd involve Ed in their storylines, right? And you watch, there was one on there. He brought this woman into the ring who had a petition to get rid of one of the wrestlers. She was passing it around Calgary. She had all these names on it because people hated these people so much, right? It was awesome. And then when WWE came for the first month, we were like, oh, shut that off.
Well, WWF. Let's see if we're gonna go back.
It was WWF at the time.
WWF back in the day, and the old WWE. Yep. When you talk about what is this, when they switched to WWE, I remember going, what is this? Get out of here with this WWE. But there's your Twitter or your Stampede fix. Follow Twitter, and you can have access to it.
Stomper.
Let's talk to CPCA. What Bucky is going to go on here? You sit on the board.
Yep.
What is going to happen with the season? Can there even be a season?
Well, I think any decision for anything, and we talk about this for pro sports, that the decision is going to be out of the CPCA's hands. It's going to be out of Chuckwagon Racing's hands. It's going to come down to the health authorities. It's going to come down to the provincial governments. So we don't know now, and we're just kind of in a holding pattern. And we have a lot of sponsors that contact the association. A lot of sponsors contact our drivers asking what's going to happen. And we can't tell them. And we can just say, and our drivers are preparing like they're going to race. Our first stop is supposed to be Prince Albert at the end of May, and we're supposed to go to the Calgary Stampede in July. So we're planning to do that.
That's got to be tough.
It's very tough.
Yeah.
Well, it's not only when you can race, but the CPCA, to make it effective, Buck, you've got to have the sponsors, right? You've got to have all these sponsors in place, and the economy's been decimated so badly. And I hate speculating because you know this better than I do, Buck, but there's a lot of guys who really rely on this.
Oh, yeah. And that's a thing where people don't realize that you have sponsors that sponsor the drivers. And that sponsorship money goes into getting them down the road. It goes into fuel to go down that road. It goes into feed for the horses, not just during the race season, but now when they're training those horses. So all of a sudden you don't have that sponsorship money coming in. How are you going to feed these horses? How are you going to train these horses? And right now, guys are training their horses like they will be racing in June because that's what they have to do. Right now, through everything that's going on, you have to try to do normal stuff. And normal stuff to these guys is training their horses.
Yeah, preparing like they're going to be racing. That's probably the only way they can approach it because you can't just all of a sudden, nope, tomorrow we're racing, right? Like it's not a switch you flick on and off. You got to be in prep early. It's just tough because right now, it's looking pretty bleak, but it's looking pretty bleak for everything. So,
well, we talk about these major sports like the NHL and MLB and everything, but how much money is being lost there and how much money is going on there. But at the same time, it's not the livelihood that it is with the CPCA, right? And so it makes it even tougher to talk about the CPCA at this time.
It is. You know what? And the thing is with CPCA, and you guys all know, Chuckwagon Racing, we have some very loyal, passionate fans and love them to death. And right now, it's driving the fans crazy, almost more than the drivers and the outriders and everybody else in the sport, because if there's no Chuckwagon Racing, what the heck am I going to do for 3 months in the summertime? Because a lot of them travel up and down that highway to watch the races or listen on radio, and now all of a sudden you take that away. And the other big component here, and I think more than anything, when they decide what's going to happen, I think everything else will fall into place. And of course, that's the Calgary Stampede. When the Calgary Stampede steps up and says, we're having a show in July, we got approval from the provincial government, federal government, who else we need approval from, then everything else and everybody else will go, okay, now let's get back to normal. But social distancing, you got to think, so it'll still be in effect in July. So if it is still in effect in July, how the heck do you do the Calgary Stampede?
Sober.
Yeah, sober, no midway. How do you sit watching, you got 25,000 people sitting there watching Chuckwagon Racing. You got to be how many meters apart from each other in the stands. You have a standing room area. You have luxury suites. You have all those different components that makes up the Calgary Stampede and the why people love the Calgary Stampede so much that all of a sudden that's all going to change now.
Wasn't warm weather supposed to kill this virus? If we ever get some, maybe we'll find out.
The other thing that I hate to make a joke about this, but if you Google this, they're saying it can be passed through farts now. Honestly,
that makes you the most dangerous person on the planet.
Honestly, Google it.
You better put a face mask around your house then. Put plastic up on every entrance to that house.
Around what? The house?
Your
oh,
house.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought something else.
There you go, Bucky, the most dangerous man in the world.
Yeah. He's got the golden gun. One shot and it kills.
Trump's going to hire me. I'm going to invade Korea.
I got two final ones for you. They'll probably nice and quick here, boys, to end off. Since we're all social distancing, trapped in our houses, what has been a hobby you've picked up, if anything? And what have you been doing during your COVID lockdown?
I kind of lie, but I'm not going to use it, though. I was cheesy and watching something, but I better not, so.
That was what you were doing before the lockdown.
Oh, okay.
He's talking about afterwards. Well, I've been watching a lot of old movies, and of course I miss country music because I listen to country music every day. So I find myself listening to a lot of country music. But also on, we talked about Tiger King on Netflix, but actually I've been watching World War II in color, and it's really got me interested in World War II and specifically Winston Churchill. And so I've been doing a little research on that because I find it amazing. If you guys are looking for a series to watch, World War II in color, the documentary series on Netflix, I found it just amazing. There's certain things I have to go back and watch twice because I find it so fascinating.
For myself, I rediscovered a couple of things in the basement that I didn't realize we had. One was an exercise bike, and one was a rowing machine. There was hockey jerseys on one, hockey cards on another, and geez, I didn't realize we had that. That's kind of a neat thing. So I'm realizing that actually I can exercise.
Have you used the rowing machine yet, Buck?
No, it's kind of awkward.
Yeah, that's because you can't get down to get in it, can you?
Yeah, exactly.
And if you ever got down, you'd never get back up.
No, that's the reason why I don't do yoga. I know Alice and my wife wanted me to do yoga, and she said, well, can you touch your toes? And I said, the only way I'm touching my toes is somebody cuts them off and hands them to me.
Touch my toes? I can't even see them. I can just see you in the basement trying to get in this rowing machine. And then, Allison!
I'm stuck!
Allison! Call the boys! I need help getting up! Paramedics going, there's no way I'm going in that house. I heard it gets passed by farts.
If you could, a big thing right now is, I seen it actually first with I think Jamie Campbell from Sportsnet. It said if anyone's missing baseball or the Blue Jays in particular, that he would reach out to any baseball fan and talk to them, whatever. So if you could get a call tomorrow from any star, whether it's sports, politician, movie star, whoever you want, who would you have? Who would you want to phone call?
Buck, you go first.
Oh, really, me? Any, like it could be anybody. Right?
Anybody.
Person has to be alive, of course.
Yeah, sure. We'll go with it has to be alive. Yep. That would make sense. Yep.
You know what? Through all this, and I was never a fan of his, really. But I've gained a lot of respect for him for what he has done for charities in Canada. And I'm going to get serious here for a second. Is Ryan Reynolds, and I so much respect for the young fella, a Canadian guy that has stepped up and has helped organizations in Toronto. He's helped organizations in Edmonton, and you know what? Hats off to him. I'm not a big fan of celebrities getting involved and giving their 2 cents through a lot of different things in our life. But he's doing something very positive. So probably if I got a phone call from him and if, yeah, I'll probably accept it.
I think that's an awesome question, Shaun. I don't know if you guys saw, what's his name? The PA announcer from Montreal, Michael Lacroix, I think is his name. But a Boston Bruin fan reached out to him and said, could you call my name like I just scored a goal as a Boston Bruin at the Bell Center in Montreal? And instead, he sent him back a video of him getting a penalty for 2 minutes for being on the wrong team, basically. And I thought that was classic.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty neat if I could hear him say, Kurt Price, 5 minutes for fighting or something like that in a game misconduct or something like that. That'd be cool. if it was, anybody at all, I would definitely pick Wayne Gretzky because I admire the man so much.
You know what? It's just on that topic. One thing I like to pass out to people that are listening and viewing us tonight. You know what? We're all stuck at home, and we're trying to find things to do in our day. There is a couple of apps on chat forums on Facebook in Lloydminster for volunteers. If you want to step up and, maybe get groceries for a senior in a given day. I'm on the United Way board of directors, and we're doing a few things at senior homes this coming week. Today at the Lloyd X, we had that curbside assistance for Easter meals today too. So you know what? There's a lot of organizations that need help at this time. So if you're bored, don't be bored. Help somebody out.
I think it's really good, Bucky.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's important here is, and we talked about what this is going to look like in a couple of months and how this is going to change. And I think one of the ways that it has already changed people is people to realize that they need to support local businesses. I think of a guy like Dave Schneider, who has supported many events. You can't go to an event and there's an auction going on and there's not a jacket or a shirt or something that Dave Schneider has donated, or he sponsored a hockey team or done something with hockey groups here in Lloydminster, or he sat on a board or something like that, because I know he was with the Bandits for a while.
Yeah, he was.
But that's a local business that is not open right now, but is trying to make their way in doing sales, curbside pickups, like you say, Bucky. And I think supporting those local businesses right now, if you can, is huge. And I know there's been a few people out there going out and buying gift certificates and things like that to even give away or just have for when things do get better again. That supporting these local businesses, I think that from all of this, what stands out to me is just how important that really, really is.
Yeah, boys, I couldn't agree more. And I think we'll leave it there. I really appreciate you guys hopping on and talking a little sports, having a little bit of fun with me tonight. I'm sure everybody will be chuckling a little bit. There's a few funny parts in the middle of there for sure. Some good messages as well. But thanks again, guys, for hopping on tonight.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Thanks for having us.
Hey, folks, thanks again for joining us today. If you just stumbled on the show and like what you hear, please click subscribe. Remember, every Monday and Wednesday, a new guest will be sitting down to share their story. The Shaun Newman podcast is available for free on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else you find your podcast fix. Until next time.